Welcome to Race Nutrition Planner. This is just a quick video walkthrough just to show you how to use it as a bit of a demo guide. There's a few little buttons you've got to press to make it work properly and function as it should do. Once it's up and running, it works really well and it gives you a good overview of what your race nutrition strategy may be. It doesn't actually replace a strategy, and I expect a strategy to come together more through personal conversations. But it's a good place to start planning out how you're going to eat each hour, what you're going to take on with the different types of food. So we're really looking at this to try and beat taste fatigue, make sure you're balancing out your carbohydrates and your fluid each hour, understanding how much weight you've got to carry, what you're going to eat at checkpoints. So giving you a really good race nutrition strategy. This planner, in terms of background, came around from putting various races together, anything from a 4-hour Fast and Furious short ultra to, ultras such as the Spine Race or Dragon's Back, which are going over days and days. So I've built this to accommodate both of those. And as I give you a walkthrough, you'll be able to better understand that. So again, this should help contextualize your nutrition needs for a number of different races. You can structure and build this around what those different races are. As I say though, ideally we would have a chat and a consultation first, discuss your race and what your needs are a little bit better, and then build up towards that through some sweat rate testing, some hydration planning, gut training as well. And then this race planner would be the culmination of that, which is actually, understanding what your needs are, what nutrition you like, and then this is that final piece of a puzzle where we're getting it down onto paper. So again, I'll go through these different tabs. So this is all based around Google Sheet. There's various scripts in it which run, which kind of happen in the background, which a bit like in Excel, it's got various formulas built in. On this first page, just an introduction basically, and just, it'll give you a little link to, details of hydration, what to do in advance of a race. It'll also have a link of this video on as well once I've completed this. Once we click through to the next tab, this is where we start getting into some of the data and some of the details. So I've put a little demo here together. So we're approaching UTMB 2024. So we think, right, Jim Walmsley, what's this, 4th or 5th time at UTMB, he's got to win it this year. So his aim to win the race, set a new course record. So you as an athlete, all you need to do is put your race distance in miles. If you put that in miles, it'll convert it to kilometers. If you're more of, if you're in the US perhaps and you're more used to kilometers, then just put the kilometers in there. Put race surface in as well, so trail. Just because on a trail, it'll increase energy expenditure. So, if we think about, energy expenditure on the flat on a road as our baseline, on a trail would be about 1.1 to 1.2 times that amount of energy expenditure. Put the elevation in the race in, how many checkpoints. So I've built this all around UTMB. So this gives us a bit of a total estimate of time, including stops. So Jim Walmsley, for sure, will be aiming for 20 hours. Total estimate of moving time, and then I've broken this down as a little formula into minutes. If we start to look over here, this is where we understand some of your energy needs. So if you put in your, as accurate as possible, your current weight, height, again, these are all the bits of info for Jim Walmsley, your age, what your pack weight may be as well, when it's fully loaded up with nutrition and water, and then this will add them together and define what your total weight will be. And down here, this will work out the energy expenditure. So I'll look at this in terms of what your daily resting metabolic rate will be, and then what your moving energy will be. So roughly for Jim Walmsley across UTMB, if he wants to do that race in 20 hours, he's going to burn roughly, where are we up to? 13,792 calories across the duration of that 20 hours. So this starts to break down here. So we understand average estimated pace. So we'll get a good understanding of intensity. So is what on 11.2 minute miles, or we break that down, 7 minutes per K on average. Remember, there's a lot of climbing in this, so it's going to change quite a lot. But if we understand the intensity, we understand what our carbohydrate needs may be a little bit more. Because we think, right, is the athlete going to run at the hills? Are they going to up the pace near marathon pace on the flat? If this intensity goes up, then they're going to be burning more through more glycogen and through more carbohydrate stores. So obviously, their carbohydrate intake is needing to go up. If it's at an easy pace, if they're going to walk the hills, then actually we don't need to hit those dizzy heights quite as much. Then this will break it down into energy expenditure per hour without resting metabolic rate and with resting metabolic rate. So for Jim Walmsley, on average, he's burning 690 calories an hour. Again, on UTMB, on a shorter single stage race, and I say shorter when you compare this to the races such as Dragon's Back or single stage races like the Spine race, the pace is going. It's going to be difficult to replace all of his calorie needs. So we don't really need to go in that deep. So once we've got a good understanding of what that energy may be, we can hazard a guess at what the intensity is and how much of that is going to be split between carbohydrates, fat, and even a little bit of protein. So again, at that pace, we might think if we had some heart rate data and we can look at previous races and look at that intensity. If we've got any other data as well, we can start to hazard a guess at what his needs may be per hour. So straight away, looking at that, we might think, okay, so to make it easy, let's say 50% of that's going to be carbohydrates. If we round that up to 700, say 350 calories an hour will be carbohydrates. And then each gram of carbohydrates has 4 calories in. So 350 divided by 4 equals, so that's 87.5 grams of carbohydrates an hour. So to be safe, we'd want to bump that up to maybe 90, even 100, in terms of building up efficiency in carbohydrate oxidation. So for this athlete, straight away, we know that estimated carbohydrate needs per hour 90, but actually we can go 90 to 100. So that's pretty safe. On this page as well, we'd want to put some strategy notes in. So intending to run all easy to moderate climbs, which will be Jim Walmsley, trying to keep 10 beats below marathon threshold pace on the flat. So again, keeping that high pace. For you, it might be the same as this or different, depending on what kind of race you want to run. If you want to be on the podium, you want to win it, or actually just after a good day out. And then a little bit about food there, so we can start planning it a little bit better. So preference for savoury foods at checkpoints, things like pizza. Don't like meat or cheese, it might make you feel sick. So once we've got all this data, we can start to move on. So for you only need to fill out the race information, any details of that you can get from a race website, what you think your time may be, and again, we can chat about this. Some of your info there, such as your weight, your height, age, things like that, what you think your pack weight may be, and then all this will sort itself out, energy expenditure there. So moving on to the planning stage, on the next sheet, we've got the food list. So what you will find here, right at the top, it'll say the last time this was updated. So what I've done is tried to buy as much nutrition as is available in the UK. So again, some of this might be missing off some US or even European brands. So if it does, just let me know. I've put a few in there, and some of these are common across all those countries, like Precision, Fuel and Hydration, and SIS, and Scratch Labs and things like that. So this breaks it all down into everything from bars, protein bars for longer races, checkpoint drinks, checkpoint food, so salty food, savoury food, sweet food, blah, 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 even dehydrated food if you're on races like the Spine, drinks, gels, all the usual. And then for each one, it'll say the amount of carbohydrates in each, the weight, the carbohydrate to weight ratio, how much protein, caffeine is in it, fiber, fat, calories, and then calories to weight. Again, again, all these different metrics add different things. So for most races, we really want to be keeping fiber as low as possible, because this can increase bulk in your gut, but also lead to GI distress and issues. Fat intake as well, particularly saturated fat, we want to keep down, because again, this can lead to you taking a lot of fat can lead to feelings of nausea. Protein for a longer race, such as a spine, we want to be putting in bits of protein. So ideally about 5 to 10 grams of protein every 2 to 3 hours. On a shorter race, and in particular something like UTMB, we don't really need to focus on protein as much. And a lot of protein, again, can start to slow the transit if you gut down and create issues. So we're looking to balance protein. On a longer race, again like the spine, we try and get in as many calories as possible to meet some of those energy deficits. But on a race such as UTMB, and races shorter than that, really we'd want to focus on trying to meet our energy needs through carbohydrates. And we try and build up a certain tolerance to, whatever we decide, is our carbohydrate needs from that previous page. So if we start to look at this, we can go down. It's got all the data for each there. There's caffeine as well, things like that. Rather than kind of going over that whole sheet, we go to the food inspector. So on this food inspector, you can start to break it down, look at what you like. So you go on food type. So these all load because there's always a script running in the background. But, if I'm Jim, I'm thinking, right, really like gels. I'm going to take gels later on in the race. So what gels do I like? What should I choose? So click on gels, come up with all the available gels at the moment. And again, if you find any that aren't on there that you like, let me know and I will add them. So Morton gel, gel 100, 25 grams of carbs in it. Again, don't be fooled by the Morton gels. On the front of the packet, it says 42 grams. That's the actual weight of the product rather than the amount of carbs, and people always mistake that. It's actually got 25 grams of carbs in. No protein, no caffeine, no fiber, no fat, so we're all good there. 100 calories in, which makes sense considering there's 4 calories per gram of carbohydrates. So we've got that, and you might think, okay, I like the Morton gels. They're pretty good. What else? There's the caffeinated ones, which might come in handy for when I'm starting to feel tired, when I'm fatiguing, the night sections. SIS Beat Fuel as well, which is great. And that's actually a bit more bang for your buck. So that's got 40 grams of carbs in. So if you look at the carb to weight ratio, we can see where we're really starting to get the bang for our buck a little bit more with these numbers. So the lower this is, the more you're going to get that carb to weight ratio. So if we look at SIS Beat Fuel, okay, yeah, it looks like it's got more carbs than the Morton, but if we start to look at the weight, actually Morton just swings it a little bit, 1.6, whereas Beat Fuel's 1.9. So you can start to think, if you're trying to cut weight, you can start to look at some of these lower numbers. So the lowest number on there is actually the SIS Beat Fuel with nootropics, which is actually a little bit lighter, 1.5, and then we start to go down. Actually, Spring Energy, awesome source, 45 grams of carbs, weighs 54 grams. It's actually 1.2. So really, really tasty gel. A lot of bang for your buck there. Costs about £3.50, so it's really expensive. And if we actually start to look at that, 2 grams of protein in, so that could come in pretty handy for some races. It's also got 2 grams of fiber in though, so if you're trying to build your intake just around Spring Energy Awesome Source, then actually the amount of fiber you take in might go up pretty quickly. And again, you might be someone who's not able to tolerate fiber, or you might get more gut issues. So if that's the case, I would try and avoid fiber as much as possible. So, be strategic in what you choose. So if we choose a few of these, so Morton gel's great, Morton with caffeine even better. Precision hydration gels, yeah. Let's get one of those on, and then you need to click the button add to my food list, so the script will run again. And then, right, we want to choose. So what chews have we got? The Beat Fuel chews, carb to weight ratio 1.5, brilliant. Let's get one of them. And actually, what else have we got? So we've got the Precision hydration chews, which are really tasty. They're 1.2, so let's get them. Add those to your food list. So what we can do now is go on to the next sheet, which is my food list. So all those foods which you've chosen will be there. So it means you're not swimming in all the different hundreds of nutrition products, and actually you've selected the ones that you've hopefully tested during your gut training, you like and you want to work with. I've added a few extras in there as well. So these are all the ones that you want. So if you look at this, you think, oh, okay, right. What do I want? I've added a few more in here. So I've put things like, if it's a longer race, pot noodle even, pretzels for checkpoints, things like that. But we can start to get rid of some of these if we don't want them. So get rid of pot noodle, keep the other gels, keep the foods for checkpoints because we want to make use of that. Homemade rice cakes, we don't need that. So let's go delete selected items. All right, so we can have a look at this and think, okay, don't want the energy bakes actually, so let's get rid of them. But we're pretty happy with everything else. And remember, you can always go back and add more. So again, get the script to run. So update race planner. And then what we can start doing from this point is planning our race. So this is how the race planner looks like. So this works in blocks. And you can add blocks or take away these blocks. And essentially, these blocks are about adding hours. So for each number, it will represent an hour. And then there's different rows on there. So what I would expect is for you to put a block together, which might be a certain nutrition strategy, and then you may change that in a subsequent block. Because again, to beat taste fatigue, we want to mix it up as much as possible. So we can do the start. So there's a block just already in there, which is this one. And again, I always quite often discuss sort of inverse pyramid, where you might want to start with less nutrition and then build it up over the first 3 hours. So for that first hour, when you're at the start, you might say, well, actually, got my glycogen stores topped up in my muscle and my liver. You know, I've had a big breakfast. I don't really need to eat as much. And actually, I want to back off eating quite as much because it'll help me burn fat a little bit more. So all I want is a chew, and sometimes you've got weight because it's a script running in the background. So the precision hydration chews amount, put 1 in. So what this will do then, it'll give you a total for that block. So we've got 30 grams of carbs in there. We've got the total weight in, things like that. So what I'm going to do is eat that 30 minutes in, and that's it. And then my second block, I've already added a block here. So for each hour after that, I want to start building up. Maybe for the second and third hour, and put that up to 60 grams an hour. So I'll think, right, what do I want? SIS Beat Fuel gels, maybe, or what else have I got? OTE Super Gel, they're pretty tasty. Go 1 in there. And whoops, a little bit of a script problem there. Again, you might find a few little bugs in this, so keep a lookout. If it does that, then delete the row, and I'll organise that. But you think, right, I'm going to put a drink in instead, a Tailwind. So 2 scoops is in a stick, so that's 50 grams of carbs, and then you've got all the details there. And then if you add, let's go gel onto there. All right, SIS Beat Fuel, so there we go, 40 grams. So we know we've got 90 grams of carbs there for that one. So we can bring it down a bit. So what else have we got? We've got the Morton 320 drink. These are all the drinks we've added, remember. So actually think if it's only going to be 50 grams, then I can get rid of the gel, keep it at that. And then for my next hour, if I want to bring it up to that 90, then let's go choose. So precision choose. Go 1. And then get another drink. So stick of Tailwind. Let's put 1 in. So that brings up to 80. So you can start playing around with that and changing that. So simply go for each hour and plan it out. And then at the end of that block, this will be the total. So right up at the top, it will give you total amount of carbs, the weight, all these different metrics as well. So you'll understand how much you're carrying, which again, if you're doing a longer race, such as a spine, this is really important because you think, okay, how can I meet my energy needs, but start to trim this a little bit. So again, you might be able to cut a kilo or half a kilo somewhere, which is going to make certainly a difference onto your race, but also you're able to manage it in terms of not cutting out too much. There's checkpoints in there, so you can start to add checkpoint food too. There's a number of different checkpoint foods put in there. So handful of tortilla chips, which is 5. So put in, so you get 10 grams of carbs in that, and the rest of it. And again, remember, these drop-down menus, these only represent what you've put in your food list. So if you think, okay, if I only want half a shot of Tailwind, then I go back, I go to drinks, and then I go Tailwind, single scoop, add to my food list, go back to my food list, so it's in there now. Update race plan. Okay, so a little success thing pops up there. And then there we go. So that's popped up with Tailwind single scoop. Go 1, and it's given us that amount. So again, with this, what I would suggest is obviously playing around with it, but this gives you opportunity to plan everything. Again, sometimes a bit slow because there's script running in the background. So go through it, think about the timings, the distance between checkpoints. So write that there, what the checkpoint name may be as well, and start to build it. So to build this, if we delete these, which I've put in already, so just tick them, and then you go up here to block builder. So ones I've ticked, I can go delete selected block, and then it says there running script, so that's deleted. But with a block builder, I can also add a new block. So click on that, and then you can put in a checkpoint, a 1 hour block, or all the way up to a 5 hour block. So you need to time this to think about how long is it going to take between checkpoints. So again, it's thinking about your race on paper, the intensity, what you want to do, how you want to plan it. So let's put in checkpoint there. And again, what I would suggest is going through and planning it all and building it all first, because it takes a little bit of time to put it together. So as that works itself out. Success, so we've got a checkpoint on there. And then if I put another block, so I've got that checkpoint, but I know, all right, it's like what, 2 hours to the finish, let's say. So a 2 hour block. So again, this will give an overview then and start building it up for how long that race is going to take. So this might be 6 hour duration. So this again could be like a 35-mile race, for example. Always make sure you're going to add that first hour on top of that as well. So ideally for UTMB, if you're Jim Walmsley, you want to be getting that up to 21 hours duration. And then also putting a couple of gels in your back pocket just to make sure. So again, any issues with it, let me know. I'll help you build it. And then one on paper, we can start to experiment with it, build around it, add to it. And if you find any bugs or anything, just let me know. and I'll start to work those. Again, this month's in the making this, and there's quite a lot of script gone into it. But on the whole, it works pretty well. And again, with the amount, just change the amount and it'll double it up. The last tab you'll find is the settings. So you don't really need to worry about that too much, but this all links into like basically a back-end spreadsheet where I put everything in, and I just update this every time I update it, and put in new food. So there'll be a little bit of a date there. So anytime you use it, look at when it was last updated, and then update the drop-down menus, just if there's any new nutrition in it. But most of the time I'll be able to do that anyway, so you don't really need to worry. Or if you find something that you want in there, it's not there, let me know, and I'll update that at the back end.